Sometimes on a bad day, on a wild day, the sea rears up like a solid wall you cannot see beyond. And the next headland, the next safe harbour, seems a world away. And other days, like a great fish caught in a net, some wind fills the sail, and you are drawn out across the blue and shining globe by an unseen power. And never forget. When a boat clears the horizon and is lost to sight, somewhere out there it may be rising up like a vision from the waves. It sails the pages of a book, spreading the news that the world is, after all, smaller than we imagine it. That those who stand on its distant shores, in the frayed hem of tide, are our sisters and brothers. That the seas do not, as it sometimes seems, separate us, but bring us together.
Ta ta ra te te 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 la e te la e Queda vivir aquí, 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 entre os teus desperdicios, máis esta cocaína pulverizada por riba da mesa. Con facturas, con multas, coas cotas da suba da hipoteca impagada. Quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí. No farei chisco de ruido, dispararei con levitar de viúva, con pranto oprimido exercerei de fiel servente das abas a cociña, da sumisa consentidora, da traición, da vexación, no desencanto. Quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí, quedo a vivir aquí. Parirei eses dous fillos teus que han xogar nun parque urbano, un patio de veciños, unha piscina da comunidade, un club recreativo con campo de golf que han coquetear coas anfetaminas por non ter espazos libres de pasto vivir aquí. Entre Varsovia y Atlanta, a carón de un BBVA, enfronte de un bazar chinés, debaixo dunha praza de pavimento enlousado, de nome reinaugurado por o busto derruído, menos obsoleto e máis popular. E quedo a vivir aquí, 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 quedo a vivir aquí.
Hello, my name is John McAuliffe, and I'm very sorry that I wasn't at the Amergin Festival this past June. I always enjoy seeing Paddy Bush and talking to Paddy about poetry, and I'm also very sorry that I missed the great lineup that he had assembled for the weekend. It's always a pleasure to hear other poets and to read from a new book in the company of other poets, and to hear, to get that kind of sounding board you have of hearing your own work among what other poets are doing. So over the past 8 or 9 months now, I've been confined to quarters here in Manchester where I live, and it's been very unusual for me not to be home, for me not to have made it back to Kerry. One of the things I suppose that I'm very grateful for the kinds of online resources, for the way that I'm able to stay in touch with people, but also in how I have been able to some extent through the various online readings and curated tours of art spaces and through online concerts to be able to get a sense of the sort of creative activity which still does of course go on, although it's just harder to access it physically and in person. I'm going to read one poem from my book. I'm very grateful to Amergin for organising this and for providing a platform for this new work to make its way out into the world at such a strange time. So the book is called the Kabul Olympics, and it came out last April. And the poem I'm going to read is one of these poems which is thinking about where I grew up in Listowel, County Kerry, but it's also thinking about childhood. And I often think that emigration or living in a different country is really a sort of accentuated way of thinking about looking back on childhood anyway. And the two things get twinned in this poem's travels, which is for my mother, Lucy, who's still at home in Listowel with Jerry, and they both feature in the poem, which is for them. Clippings. Clippings following up on the phone call are the first news feed. Clocking updates from all over. Folded pictures and snipped column and wild review are filters. Likewise, the enclosing note ending love and God bless on pale blue Basildon bond. And what she means is understood. Once, I am 9 or 10, acting as if there was no use in my thinking she's the centre of the world. My mother left the kitchen with tap running over 6 peeled eggs in the steel sink. The water's a blur. Has she gone uptown for milk? The eggs are white and grey. And then the car returning, her voice extending into the household. Or the time she took the measure of the kitchen orchard, which crows and wasps descended on. So fruitful it could not be walked into and grew worse. She had it raised and blackly charred.
A rough patch, it travels through other summers which collect. 5 French oaks, sessile, settled in and doing fine. From Caherdaniel, her mother's Montbretia. Pine trees that grow from pine cones ferried back from Bordeaux. Resinous, gummy, in whose shadows survive a robin, starlings, or is it swifts from the eaves, and a spectacle of grandchildren running in a circle. These cuttings are raised to prosper. They bend from the house the empty wind, know the stars and love the sun. They have settled in, but look up and summon with sure elegant lines. Here live a couple of swells. She is with me at the kitchen table, between the fridge and the front door. Both sea and salt, error and adventure, with the kettle on or good wine. Here too are postcards which turn 100 other kinds of blue. Around the corners, a sun trap, and that American maple whose season, now that I see it, is a miracle. Thank you.